Hello, welcome to Housing Sector Podcast. Today I have Paul Smith, who's Director of Foundations. Paul, thank you for joining me on what is probably the hottest day of the year so far. Can you tell me a bit about yourself and a bit about Foundations?
Hi Ben. I'll start with Foundations first. So Foundations is 25 years old this year. Actually, we're the national body for home improvement agencies, and for the last few years, the national body for disabled facilities grants as well. Which been interrupted by the cat.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. Usually I feed the cats and that's
Yeah.
them done right before a podcast. It's too hot for them to eat at the minute, so
Yes.
they're,
Yeah. I know
they,
how they feel. Know how they feel. So over the last few years, we've concentrated more and more on delivery of disabled facilities grants. And we're funded through the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. And a big part of our role is supporting local authorities in improving how they deliver DFGs, and then also kind of with associated organisations like housing associations, charities, contractors, and as well as kind of feeding that back up to central government as well.
So
Um, so,
I read one of your reports, and it was built around the tools that you build, and they're sort of built within collaboration with the people that are doing the job. How does that
mm.
collaboration look for say, a housing association or local government body?
So it depends. I mean, one of the tools we've or resources that we've developed recently is the home adaptations installer network. So that is a brand new network where we're kind of attempting to put together a national database of contractors that can carry out adaptations, both in terms of them having the kind of skills and competency to do it correctly and know where to put grab rails and how to have level access showers and how to construct ramps of the right gradient, that sort of thing, but also that they should kind of have the caring approach and follow a fairly detailed code of conduct in terms of how to approach these type of jobs. Um, and that came about, I suppose, initially through us doing some survey work and looking at how local authorities manage lists of contractors at the moment. We found that 40% of them didn't have a formal list, and many of the others were struggling with how they would do that. And then also kind of speaking to Trustmark, which this kind of scheme sits with. So Trustmark's the only government-approved trusted trader scheme, and kind of having conversations with them about how there weren't really enough contractors who do this sort of work for kind of potential demand. So putting that together, we started working with one of the scheme operators for Trustmark, an organisation called Diversity. We kind of put together the proposals for what the network would look like, and then through our DFG roadshows, which are kind of conference type events where we travel around the country talking about this sort of thing, we kind of consulted on it with a wide variety of people that came, featured it in webinars. We have a Facebook group where we kind of discuss these things with about 3,000 people across the sector. We kind of took all that on board, developed the scheme, and launched it in April this year.
So I'm familiar with Trust a Trader. Through my wife uses it, and we found an excellent plumber that way. And we keep hearing about the skill shortage in the sector. Is it a case that there's a shortage of skills, or do traders just not all sign up to the complicated procurements hoops they have to jump through, and they're not all on these government registries, so they're harder to find, or is there genuinely a skill shortage?
I think it's probably a bit of both. Probably a bit of both. So we've got kind of an aging population, so more demand for this type of work, and I suppose kind of an aging building workforce as well to a certain extent. So it's kind of I suppose, kind of a double whammy from that perspective. But kind of part of what we want to do with the home adaptations installer network is make it easier for contractors to work with local government, because at the moment most councils have their own set of forms and checks that they do. And so a contractor, if they wanted to work across boundaries, would have to do these checks and forms multiple times. Whereas with this network, they could potentially just do it once and work across many local authorities, as well as being listed on a kind of publicly available database that the public can then access.
How do you ensure that these trades meet your standards and are safe to send round to people's homes, particularly in the case that they could be vulnerable?
So there's a quite a detailed set of checks that our kind of partners diversity go through before anybody is added to the network. So it's built on Trustmark, which say is the kind of only government approved trader scheme. And it takes that further in terms of things like DBS checks. And we also provide training for contractors in terms of how the Civil Facilities Grant works and how they should approach individual cases. It includes things like an insurance-backed warranty, disputes resolution, as well as kind of a work contract to make sure that it's all done as it should be, and that if anything it does kind of potentially go wrong, there's kind of legal paperwork to get it resolved.
What made you start out on this journey? 25 years ago, I believe.
Well, it was, 35 years ago.
35.
I did an interview with somebody the other day, and they called me a veteran of the sector. I thought, oh, I haven't been called that before. Not sure if I like that or not, but I started off working in a architects department at a local authority, and I joined the same month as the legislation for DFGs was enacted in Parliament. And kind of a few months later, I was asked to do some of the kind of design work on some of the first cases that were done by that local authority back in 1990. And I've been involved with it ever since. So I've designed thousands of bathrooms and ramps and kind of extensions over a period of time, then managed the teams that did that, had a spell commissioning services, including kind of commissioning DFG services. And then for the last 10 years, I've managed foundations.
And do you find it rewarding? Do you still enjoy it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think probably enjoy it more now than I ever have, and it is rewarding to see things kind of moving in the right direction. It's I suppose kind of slightly strange position in that we're somewhat removed from the kind of the coal face and kind of the actual adaptations that are done, but kind of getting feedback when local authorities are kind of taking on board the kind of the different guidance and the different tools we've developed. And you get to hear from people that have had really successful adaptations done, then it's it's very rewarding. Yeah.
And we talk again about skills shortage with trades and housing being a vocation for some people, and it clearly sounds like it's a vocation for yourself. How do we bring in new people so they can find a career and the passion and reward that you've found? How can we convince them?
I think it's been difficult across housing, hasn't it, over the last few years with kind of various issues, kind of from Grenfell through to kind of the cases in Rochdale and across the social housing sector, that it is probably not something that people necessarily look to as being something that's perhaps their number one choice coming out of university or school or whatever. But I think that's kind of part of the challenge for the sector in terms of taking on board some of the issues that have happened and thinking about how we can transform what I guess has been mostly a kind of public sector type approach, and kind of thinking about how you provide that in a more sensitive and efficient and effective way. And I think that there are lots of new people coming in that have that kind of drive and determination to do things differently. And I think kind of the nice thing is that there's lots of opportunity to can take that approach forward and run with it. Um, because there are quite a lot of things that we need to get sorted and fixed. So for those that are up for the challenge, I think there's quite a lot of opportunity there to make a real difference. And I mean, it's not necessarily going to make them rich, or maybe kind of from that perspective. But there is quite a lot of opportunity to have that kind of social impact and make a difference. So if for the people where that's what drives them, I think this is a great sector to work in.
So it could be a sexy sector if we allow it. If we can get over there's a lot of bad PR, and I'm one of the
Hmm.
vocal people to blame for that. There's been a lot of bad PR, which brings us on, I suppose, into you're running for vice president this year of the Chartered Institute of Housing. What has made you step up and put your hat in the ring for this one?
Um, it wasn't something I'd particularly um, thought about doing at great length. It was almost kind of a spur of the moment thing. A couple of months ago, I kind of saw that the opportunity had come up, and it was kind of apparent that there was going to potentially be quite a lot of or significant amount of money for kind of new build housing. And one of my kind of frustrations, I think, has been that the lack of recognition that in half of all social housing tenancies that there's somebody with a long-term health condition or disability, so that if the current tenant doesn't need some sort of adaptations or modifications around the home, then the next one is almost certainly going to. And I think it's kind of different that either kind of extra care or supported housing is built with showers, grab rails, alarms, handrails, and everything in terms of helping people to kind of live there safely, or you get kind of general needs housing that has none of that. And the vast majority of people do live in general needs housing, but that kind of concept that actually the design of them doesn't really fit. I think probably quite a lot of the people that live in them, and even if it's kind of recognised that they need some help and support, and sometimes kind of the cheapest possible white grab rail is fitted, and it's I suppose kind of the almost kind of the mental health impact on people of that sort of adaptation sometimes where it's almost I was up in Scotland this week where there was kind of quite a big project going on looking at the stigma of kind of social housing and disability and kind of how they interrelate, and you see so many houses where somebody's had a kind of cheap grab rail fitted, change of tenant, and it's ripped out, and you lose that thing on the house which makes it safer for people, and similarly with bathrooms sometimes. Um, a kind of a cheap bathroom or a cheap shower adaptation has been put in, and as soon as there's a change of tenant, that's ripped out and baths put back in, and you've lost that kind of more accessible bathroom from the housing stock. And then the next person may slip and fall over in the bath when they could have been prevented by retaining that kind of adaptation or easier to use element of the property. So it was getting back to your getting back to your question. It was to try and campaign around this issue that if half of all social housing tenancies does have somebody with a health condition or disability, then surely we should be designing and managing the housing stock to recognise that, not to ignore it. And I don't kind of lots of people that we work with have frustrations that that's the case, and I didn't feel that anybody else was articulating that as an issue. So I saw it as an opportunity to, at least through the kind of campaign that's ongoing at the moment, to raise that issue. And if kind of it resonates with people, then maybe they vote, and I get to continue to say that over the next couple of years. So I say it wasn't something that was necessarily on the on the kind of anvil a couple of months ago, but the opportunity arose, and I thought it was a key point that needs making, and that nobody else was really saying.
This brings me into my own relationship with the CIA relationship, my own interactions with the CIH, and they've changed their stance a little in recent, and we're trying to arrange a meeting in the next couple of weeks. But I've accused the CIH of being a sort of gatekeeper, and the fact that you're sort of coming on to raise a campaign, which sounds valid, sounds reasonable, and should already be out there, and yet we're having to go through the sort of role of the CIH to get that national coverage. Have I got it wrong when I say they're gatekeepers?
I mean, I suppose there are a lot of. I mean, and kind of as was kind of referenced earlier, that there's a lot of competing issues, I think, and certainly kind of safety and kind of damp and mold are obviously and quite rightly so very prominent at the moment. But I think kind of the issue I'm trying to raise isn't necessarily one that um, lots of people are necessarily going to complain about, because I went on another podcast not too long ago that had a group of tenants, and I got to be Martin Lewis for about half an hour answering their questions about applying for adaptations, and so some of them have been treated really poorly, I thought, and I was most of my responses were have you complained, and not none of them had, and none of them wanted to be seen to
Yeah.
be causing an issue or a problem. And I was kind of saying I think that's kind of one of the key issues, is that, and I was trying to say to them, it's not necessarily just for you that you're complaining, it's for the next 10 people that have got the same issue, and that perhaps you kind of think of it as more of a help to the people that follow in their footsteps as much as themselves. That maybe that's an easier way to think about it. But in terms of the I think on the right to live in a home that's safe and suitable for your needs, it's kind of one of the things that we should expect. The Housing Ombudsman did a report in January that found some serious failures around adaptations, and I mean, maybe it'll be the next kind of big issue for the sector, but it's one that hasn't been particularly well presented, I think, by kind of the NatFed or CIH in the past. So hence why I wanted to raise its prominence.
No, I think there are lots of so you're right. You know where to spend the money. There's so much that needs doing. It's good damp and mold. It's fire safety. It's adaptations. Could we be building homes which are built to a standard which include all the adaptations that may or may not be needed in a way that they don't hinder people? Screw. Sorry, they don't hinder people who don't need them, and they're there for when that home is occupied by someone who does need them.
I mean, absolutely, absolutely. I think that's kind of part of what I'm trying to say in the campaign, is that if we're building, if it's 39 billion pounds announced for new homes, and it doesn't cost that much more, if and it depends exactly how you design them and how clever you are with your design, but it doesn't have to cost any more to make them suitable for a much wider variety of people. But that I don't think the necessarily the awareness is there that that's an option. As I say, if it's extra care or if it's supported housing, then all these are built in as a matter of course. But if it's not, then none of it is. And I just think somewhere there's a kind of middle ground there where you can include some features, and they don't have to be things that you kind of say can stare out as being glaringly obvious as adaptations, but just some kind of careful choices in terms of doors, door furniture, taps, basins, toilets, things like that, that make it easier for people to use. Then we should be able to. I mean, if you look at cars, you don't necessarily even notice it in cars, but kind of things like the Ford Focus has been developed around universal design principles. So it is suitable for a wide variety of different ranges of height, shape, mobility, and you don't even notice. So doing the same for housing is definitely not outside of our expertise if we're kind of minded to do so.
Of course, like the rest of the planet, we have the aging population, don't we? I mean,
Mm.
we're top heavy with older people, hence Labour fearing and turning back the book. Oh no, winter payments because they're afraid of the grey voter, as it's called. So we've got the problem that we've got the aging population, and I suppose it saves money if we can keep people, and people want to stay in their homes longer than going into
Mm.
care homes. Does your work cross over into the care sector as well?
I mean, I suppose what we're trying to do is, and what the Disabled Facilities Grant very much tries to do is make it so that people's homes are safer and that they can continue to live there independently without having to go into residential or nursing care. And we've done some research that shows that people who've had a home adapted would are much less likely to move into residential care, and if they did, they'd move later in life. So I think there's some really good evidence that that's the case. Um, which also kind of feeds in for housing associations. I think as landlords, if they've got adapted stock, then their tenants are going to stay there longer. They're going to have less voids, less turnover, more secure tenants. So I think it works from that perspective as well.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Okay, well, look, we're coming to the end. I wish you luck with your vice presidency. What happens if you win? What's the what powers are you given?
I'm not entirely sure, be honest with you, Ben. Um, I mean, I think as part of it, you work alongside the current president as vice president for a year or so, and get to start to kind of ramp up the campaign for the point when you take over as president. So I'm looking forward to finding out how to wield that power. But I think I mean, it's not a kind of an executive role in CIH, it's more of a kind of honorary role. But I want to be very pleased to hold and to be able to kind of, I suppose, kind of support many people in the sector who want to make a difference and kind of recognise that the homes that they provide should be safe, suitable, and yeah, kind of that long term haven for people.
Well, even if it's an honorary award, it's a good start, and I wish you the best in it. You're certainly the housing sector's favourite. Let's put it
Oh,
that
thank you.
It's been great having you on, Paul. Good luck and stay in touch. Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thanks, Ben. Thank you.